Oh, I guess Ruby's she's gonna need to get off of the mat. Oh, Caroline's joining. Hi, Caroline. All right, cool. Ruby, I'm sorry, but you can't be sitting here. All right, everyone, welcome to your POGA practice. As usual, we will spend just a few minutes centering ourselves through a silent meditation, and then we'll do some seated stretching, which can happen down on your mat seated, or you can be in a chair, sitting on an ottoman, whatever you like. And then we'll move on to our dynamic postures on the mat. So finding a seated position that works for you this morning, and finding some length in the spine. So you might take a big inhalation, noticing how that helps you grow a little bit taller. And then on an exhale, relaxing the shoulders down while keeping that length in the spine and through the neck. Maybe taking a few deeper breaths here just to begin to notice the breath, maybe for the first time today. Sending the breath down into the low belly, noticing the expansion, front, back, side, side. And then allowing the breath to return to its natural rhythm, begin to turn attention inward. You may close your eyes during your meditation or have a soft gaze. Beginning to follow the breath from the very beginning of the inhale to the top, following the exhale from the top down to the bottom. And when you notice the mind caught up in thought, traveling into the future or the past, just acknowledge it and gently bring it back to the breath. Allowing the attention to the breath to anchor you into the moment. Good, and opening the eyes if you have them closed. Allow the eyelids to flutter open. Welcoming back the vision of the room. And we'll begin with just some easy shoulder circles. So picking the shoulders up, back, down, and around. And and changing directions. You might notice some sounds coming from the body, right? Some crunching or something else perhaps as we wake these joints up. And finding stillness in the shoulders, interlace the fingers and bring the hands up over the head, creating a little roof. And once the hands are basically over the head, thinking about really lifting and lengthening through the side bodies, shoulders come up towards the ears, ribs come away from the hips. And then breathing into the belly, the low back. Imagining that balloon, inhaling and exhaling, expanding and contracting, reaching actively. Good. And then slowly release the hands down to your sides, decelerating on the way down. Wonderful. Yeah. Interlacing the hands behind you now, or just grabbing onto an opposite wrist. We're going to open up the chest, squeezing the shoulder blades together and down to open the heart center, the pecs, the front shoulders and the throat. You can slightly rock your pelvis forward, the belly coming forward slightly, flaring the rib cage out, and feeling that breath in the front of the body. Our inhales help us to expand and create space. And you may feel that sensation here. Releasing the grip, hands come out in front. We're going to flip and crisscross at the wrists, interlace the fingers, and round the spine. So the opposite of that extension, shoulder blades coming apart as you reach forward with the fists. Ribs tuck down and in, and the head can hang heavy. Continuing to reach actively through the arms. Finding the breath now in the back of the body. Noticing that space that's created in the upper back as you inhale. Good. Releasing the grip and returning to neutral spine. Right fingertips down by the sides. It's an inhale to lift the left arm high, and an exhale to come into a lateral bend. Maybe even getting the palm down on that hand that's supporting. Staying anchored down through the left hip. So try not to lean over, getting light on the sit bones, but really staying heavy. Good. And you might find that as you press your left sit bone down, you may find an even more intense stretch sensation through the obliques and the lats on that side. If you notice that you're somewhat caving in on yourself, curling inward, think about really opening the chest up towards the sky. You might look up past the elbow. Nice. Slowly lowering the arm down. It's an inhale to lift the right arm high, and an exhale to come into the lateral bend, this time finding weight in the right hip and the right sit bone. Imagining breathing space in between each rib on that right side. We're reaching energetically through the fingertips. Oh, forgot to do a silence. And coming back through center as I silence my phone. And interlacing, actually, hold on, let me come back here because I think I lost my little zoomy zoom when that phone call came in. There we go. Bringing the right hand across the body to hook onto the outside of the left thigh. We'll come into our first twist here of the day. We need to think about really getting tall first and then think about the twist. So the length in the spine comes as our first priority, finding that extension, and then the gentle twist, right? This invitation into that wrapping around the midline. And slowly moving through center to second side. Again, this inhale creates length from tail to the top of the head, and the exhale is a gentle encouragement into the twist. If you notice that your gaze is down and you're staring at the floor, lift the chin and turn the chin so as it's moving towards the back shoulder. You're gazing out over the horizon behind you. You can imagine this, in yoga we call it drishti, which is the gaze, right? Like, where are we looking? And you know that in dragon boating, good, coming through center, that in dragon boating, we do have a predetermined drishti, which is you stare at your drummer, right? So you might hear your coach say that a lot, eyes up, eyes up, eyes up. So anytime that we're doing our yoga practice, or you might notice when you're lifting weights, if you notice that your head is down when you're squatting, lunging, bicep curling, whatever, notice that and lift your eyes up. Because when the body goes where the gaze goes, and when we're looking down, our head tends to drop. That head drop in the cervical spine, right, it affects the rest of the spine too. So part of good posture is where we are looking with our eyes. Right, so that's one of the easiest ways we can improve posture is just notice when you're walking, are you staring at the ground or are your eyes up, right? So just a little tip there. So let's come into our tabletop position now on our mat. We're gonna get moving and grooving. Everyone can still see me, okay, great. Spread the fingers nice and wide. Knees under hips, hands under shoulders. And we're gonna begin by stirring the pot, okay? And so we're gonna take the hips and we're gonna draw a big circle. So this has been described to me sometimes as like somebody has taken a wooden spoon and put it through your low back down through your belly button and they're like stirring a pot with it. That seems a little, all I can imagine is like a witch doing that. Like, anyway, it's a creepy kind of visual, but it does get the point across, right? That we're creating this big circle, smooth edges around and around. Yeah, and then change direction. Yeah, and again, you might be noticing some creaks and cracks. Yeah, no worries. Good. And then finding stillness in the hips, hips stack back over the knees. Let's do some bird dogging. So opposite arm and leg will extend on the inhalation. On the exhale, bring the knee and the elbow like they're going to touch underneath you. Maybe they will touch, maybe not, but they're going to get close. Inhale to extend. And exhale, knee, elbow together underneath you. Continue using the rhythm of your own breath. Prioritizing full and complete inhales and exhales. So not shortening the inhale or cutting the exhale off too early. Take your time. One more full breath. And then replace the hand and the knee. As you're ready, change sides. Prioritizing smoothness of movements. Yeah. Good. One more full breath in and out. And returning to your table, widen the knees out, toes stay together, and sit your hips back to the heels, and then reach the arms out. We'll come into extended child's pose. And if the forehead doesn't rest comfortably down, bring your fists in and make a little, I don't know, like a little fist platform. And you can rest your head in this way, or you might have a yoga block you can use under the head as well. Thinking about heavy through the hips, right? Your bum is heavy towards your heels. And then actively reaching the fingertips towards the top of the mat. So creating a lot of space through the sides of the body, armpits. And then breathing deeply into the back body. You might even feel a stretch between the shoulder blades or in the mid-back as you inhale. Good, and inhalation brings you back to your tabletop. Bring your knees back underneath your hips. Nice hands back underneath the shoulders. And on an inhalation, we're going to lift the right arm high and the gaze will follow. Hold here, okay? So what I want you to notice is what's happening in the pelvis. So as we reach up, oftentimes the hips are going to move, but I don't want you to move your hips. I want you to keep your hips level and square. And what you might find is when you do this, your arm can't lift as high. That's okay. Yeah, that's not a bad thing. I want you to stay heavy on your right knee, and on your next exhalation, reach just a little bit higher, right? But do not get that range of motion through the hips moving. We're going to really isolate through the thoracic spine, right? Which you probably hear about a lot when you're working out with Brett and your other coaches. Whew, all right, bringing that arm down. So much harder than it looks. Let's do the other side. Notice what's happening in the pelvis. Keep heavy through the left knee. Keep the left hip down and really isolate that rotation into the mid-spine. Shoulder out of your ears, reaching energetically. Feeling that left shoulder blade squeeze in towards the midline. Keep breathing as you are here. Noticing that heat building in the rear delt. Most likely is where you feel it. Good, and then lowering down slowly. All right, let's make this dynamic, and we're gonna keep alternating sides as we go. Inhale to reach the right arm high. Exhale, center. Inhale, left arm reaches, gaze follows. And exhale, center. Continue following the rhythm of your own breath. Be mindful of the pelvis and the low body. They do not move. They stay still. Building this heat, as I said, you might be able to feel that through the rear delt now, through the upper back. Looking up at the hand as it comes up, finding that full range of motion for you. It's going to look different for everyone. One more on each side, really building that heat. Lovely. Let's bring the right foot forward to replace the right hand and come to an upright posture with the shoulders over the hips. So we can let the upper body have a little break there. I know that built up some serious heat in my shoulders. Let's send the right knee forward, and that will help to open the left hip. Okay, so instead of being here, we send that knee forward, stretching through the right hip. We're going to take the left hand, bring it to the outside of the right thigh. The right hand is going to come to the low back, and we're going to twist. And the gaze follows over the horizon of the right shoulder. So again, if you find that you're looking down, lift the chin and adjust where you're looking. Wonderful. And breathe while you're here. Good. Oxygenating the muscles and not getting into the habit of holding our breath when things get difficult, right? Which is a habit that a lot of us have, right? When we're thinking too hard or we're trying too hard, we might hold the breath or the breath becomes shallow. Coming back through center. Good. And then both hands are going to come to the inside of that right foot, and we're going to slowly shift the hips back until we feel a stretch through the front of the hamstring. Now, this is a great time if you do have something like a block, you could certainly bring that into play here. Or if you have something like random, like I have this kind of funny ottoman, I could use this as well. Okay, so just kind of making it your own. You might even feel more comfortable with a hand on the outside of the leg. Yeah, so lots of different ways to find this hamstring stretch, right? And breathe. And we're doing some balancing here, right? We can't be totally passive. The core is definitely working as we hold this hamstring stretch and breathe into it. Nice. Knee rocks back forward and we return to our tabletop position. And then the left knee or left foot will come to replace the hand, coming up into our upright posture, taking that left knee and sending it forward. You'll notice that that opens up the back hip. We'll take the right hand to the outside of the left thigh, left hand to the low back as we twist, noticing where your gaze is and breathing. So you might notice a big stretch, maybe even up into the abdomen a little bit, which is your psoas, most likely. Shoulders stay relaxed, tall through the spine. So always maintaining that good posture. Good. Slowly moving through center. And then we'll rock the hips back, right? So we're just finding some straightness, right? We always say you don't have to have totally straight anything, right? But just enough till you feel a stretch in the hamstring on that front leg. And I did want to share with you all that I do double up my mats, which makes everything a lot easier on the knees. So if you are finding like a lot of this stuff, you're like, all I can feel is like this, my knees being really uncomfortable. Good, slowly rock the way back forward and we'll come back into our table. There is absolutely nothing wrong with grabbing, essentially you can get like a really cheap mat to just be your bottom mat. And it really makes a big difference. All right, cool. So from our tabletop, we're going to walk the hands out just about a palm length more. And on your next inhalation, we're going to rock the weight forward, let the hips drop, and then look up, coming into a back bend. And then the exhale is going to bring you back through center and hips go towards the heels. You don't have to come into a full child's, but just hips moving towards your feet. And then your inhale brings you back into the back bend. And you're just going to continue to flow through these two positions using the rhythm of your own breath to guide you. So we've got full hip flexion, going into full hip extension. We have spinal flexion, which happens at the back end right here, going into spinal extension, right? So we're moving these joints through their ranges of motion, lubricating as they go. And after your next back bend, the next time you're forward, instead of going back into your child's, you can pause in the middle and then tuck the toes. Yep, and we'll lift the hips and come into our downward facing dog. Now notice I do not straighten my legs, right? So I'm instead prioritizing the length of my spine. Always thinking about my posture, and that is the top priority in almost every yoga pose that we get into, right? We want length and neutrality in the spine. So when we try to prioritize straightening the legs in our down dog, oftentimes this will round the back, right? So instead, we bend the knees and we prioritize the spine. Good. We're going to walk our feet all the way to the back of the hands, coming to the top of the mat with the knees bent forward fold. Clasping onto opposite elbows as you totally let your head go. Your feet can be wider than hip distance, right? You might find that more comfortable to have the feet a little wider. But do have a bend in the knees and really, really relax the upper body, imagining space between each vertebrae. On every exhalation, the head gets a little closer to the floor, chin slightly tucked to lengthen the back of the neck. I like to do horse breaths here. The horse breath is it's really nice. You can try it. No one can hear you, so. Oh, nice. All right, let's release the elbows and slowly roll up. Even deeper bend in the knees now as you push through the feet. Legs engaging to let's roll up nice and slow, nice and slow. Shoulders eventually roll back and down. The head eventually lifts. And we arrive in Tadasana, our mountain pose. So noticing feet just about under the hips, like I said, maybe a little bit wider, a slight softness to the knees. So especially for somebody like me, where I can hyperextend, you'll notice my hip is now way in front of my knee, right? Not a great place to be, right? So I'm trying to look for that shoulder, hip, knee to ankle alignment in the body. Yeah, you can do your best with that. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's an inhale to lift the arms up over the head, and an exhale to sit into chair pose. So the hips bend, the knees bend, and the ankles bend. Yeah, and once again, you know, somewhat looking for this straight line from wrist, elbow, shoulder to the hip. And you can play around. Maybe the knees need to come forward. You need to be a little more upright. Or maybe this feels better for you, pushing your bum back a little bit, right? This has a lot to do with how your ankles, knees, and hips feel from your low back. So please make those adjustments and then settle in similar to a wall sit or a plank. This is an isometric challenge, right? So we come in, we hold, and we breathe. Push the feet into the floor, finding tension in the legs, bracing through the core, dropping the ribs slightly. Wonderful, everybody. It's an inhale to stand tall and an exhale to forward fold, bend the knees, bend the hips. Good, coming into a high plank position from here, step back, nice and long. Wonderful, yes, okay, when your next exhale comes, lower the knees, hug the elbows in, and come to the mat. Tops of the feet are down. It's a back bend on your next inhalation, peeling your chest up off the floor as you hug the elbows in, squeeze your bum, point your toes, hold and breathe within your back bend. It doesn't have to be very big. This is a baby cobra. Wonderful. And when your exhale comes, push through tabletop, tuck toes, downward facing dog. Holding that down dog, making adjustments. You might want to get a little longer, bring the feet in, bring them out, whatever. Pressing the chest towards the top of the thighs. Good. It's an inhale to walk feet to the hands, coming to the top of the mat. Exhale, forward fold. The inhale brings you to standing, rising through a flat back, all the way up, look up, reach up. And exhaling to Tadasana once again. Nice. We're going to take a big step back with the left foot. So we end up in a high lunge position. So let's start with hands on the hips here before we do anything else. Making sure we're not walking a tightrope as we're here, right? So that means that our feet are hip distance apart, right? Not right in front of the other. Good. Hips are square to the front. Wonderful. All right, let's lift the arms up over the head. High lunge position. Nice, nice, nice. Good. And again, we are holding this pose, building up endurance through the legs, endurance through the core, and working on our balance. Right? Important. Nice. Good. We're going to come into a twist by bringing hands together first. Okay, so hands come to the heart. Yep, perfect. I'm going to take my left hand, I'm going to reach across so that the upper, like this part of my arm is pressing into the outside of my thigh, and this hand's come to the low back. Yeah, take your time. You might be like, am I doing it? Oh, nope, got to fix something. That's okay. Now the option here always, if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to fall over, just bend your knee back. That back knee can be on the mat. Wonderful. And then if you feel confident with your balance, you can look over the shoulder. Now squeeze the heck out of your bum, squeeze your legs, right? Yeah, that is, within that rigidity is stability. Yeah, we need that to be rigid. Now your face can be relaxed, right? You can smile, right? But your legs need to be working. All right, it's an inhale to lift the arms up over the head. And an exhale to step in back to Tadasana. Hold and breathe. Right? You can feel that release of tension. Heartbeat maybe elevated. Wonderful. All right. Right leg steps back, hands start on the hips. Okay, getting your bearings. Right, back heel is up. Ball of the back foot is down. Front leg, we've got our knee just about over the ankle. Good, good, good. Nice, and when you're feeling ready, arms come up over the head. Right, you might not do this part, right? You might say, I'm good, I'm just working on my, low body here. Right, so just knowing that you can make this practice your own, you don't have to follow along with every little thing. Can we relax our shoulders while we're reaching over our heads? Yeah, nice. First hand comes to the heart. We're going to take the right arm, reach across. Good. And you'll notice as I do this, I'm not rounding the back, right? I'm tipping at the hip. I'm going to try to keep a long, straight line from my shoulder, my hip, my knee to my ankle. Okay. And then I twist. The left hand comes to the low back. I don't recommend twisting with a flexed spine, right? So we always first prioritize the length, right? That neutral back before bringing in a twist. And this goes for our, for our stroke as well. Good, really squeezing the heck out of the legs, bracing and breathing. So close, everybody. Remember, you can drop that back knee. All right, it's an inhale to lift arms over the head, coming square, and an exhale to return to Tadasana. Hold your Tadasana. Good, taking a big cleansing breath. Beautiful. All right, next we're going to take a really big step, getting our feet super, super wide. So it's a little tough because a lot of you are going to be like not facing me anymore. If you want to adjust your mat so you can be facing me, you can do that. Yeah, feel free. So we're going to pigeon toe slightly so that the outer edges of the feet are parallel with the outer edges of the mat. Yeah, and then hands are going to come to the hips. Good. Little softness in the knees. Do not lock out those knees. On an inhale, we're going to back bend. Look up. And then exhale, bend through the hips. Bend a little through the knees. Back bending as far as you can into your forward fold. And then eventually when you get to the bottom, you can just totally relax the upper body. Now you might notice once you get down here that you would like to widen out your feet a little bit. You might actually find that it's a little more comfortable to be in this fold with your feet farther apart. So you can play around with that. Every exhale, imagine that the top of your head is getting closer to the floor. Shoulders are just sliding towards the ears. Nice. What does it feel like to completely exhale here? Nice. We're going to come into a half lift with the upper body. So that means you're going to tent your fingertips and do your best to lengthen and extend through the spine. Right hand will come center. I'm mirroring you here. Right hand comes center. And then we're going to reach up into a twist with the left arm. Now, just like we were doing our twists and bend when we were seated and in tabletop, I want you to notice what's happening in the left hip. Don't let it lift, right? So the hips are level, right? We're not compensating by lifting through that hip. Keep that left hip down as you reach up. Squeeze the shoulder blade down the spine. So if you notice that your shoulder is up near your ear, drop it down. And breathe as you're here. Final inhalation. When you exhale, slowly come through center and inhale up on the second side. Notice the right hip here. Dropping that right hip down. Yeah, so this is getting into this isolation of the thoracic spine. Mobility within the thoracic spine is so incredibly important, not just for paddling, but for life, right? Yes. Ooh, yeah, you can feel that heat building up in the back of the body. Breathe. Final inhalation. And the exhale brings you through center, full forward fold. Release your head completely. Nice. Coming up into our half lift once again, we're going to walk our hands all the way over to the right. And as we do this, we're going to pivot on the balls of the feet until we're in a long lunge position, okay? Drop the back knee down when you get there and untuck the toes. And then walk that foot a little bit further that way, right? So just get it away from you a little bit. We're going to pour weight into the left hand and press the other hand into the inside of the knee, coming into a twist. And you might even notice that you rock onto the outside of the foot. That's okay if that happens for you. Push hard through that hand that's on the ground. Get tall, get long, right? So there's a big difference between hanging on the shoulder here versus being here, right? Make that difference. Nice. Both hands come back to the floor. Tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, and we're going to walk it through center, right? So here we are center, and then we're going all the way to the other side. Pivot, pivot, pivot. Drop the back knee. Top of the foot comes down. Move that foot over to the outer edge of the mat. Give yourself room, okay? And then pour weight into the hand as you press the other hand into the knee, pushing the knee away from you, right? External rotation through that hip. Good. Push into the mat, finding length and integrity through the joint. Good. Plant the hands, tuck the back toes, lift the knee. We're coming back through center, right into that forward fold. Stop straight in the middle and fold forward one last time. Good. Halfway lift, extend the spine. Pause here, stay in this position. The only difference is you're going to take your hands, you're going to put them on your hips. Good. We're going to back bend our way out of here, leading with the chest, pushing through the feet, have a bend in the knees, and rise up. Squeeze your bum, 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 bum. Yeah, lovely. And we'll turn, stepping to the top of the mat. Tadasana, back to our mountain pose. Good. Little breath, cleansing breath, releasing tension, shoulders relax. Nice. Good. Final sun salutation of the day. Inhale to lift the arms over the head. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale to a high plank position, hands under shoulders. And exhale to lower down to the mat, knees, hug the elbows in, and slowly lower down. Tops of the feet down, it's an inhale to back bend, baby cobra, and an exhale to come to child's pose. So not down dog, just sitting the hips back, widening out the knees. And then taking a little rest here. Remember, you can build a little pillow for your forehead. And we'll take a few breaths. And we'll rise back to our table, crisscrossing at the ankles to just sit back on our bums here. Nice. So we're going to do some more rotation, right? It's almost like there's a theme for the day, which is rotation, rotation, rotation. Excuse me. So the first thing is when we are in our seated position, we want to be accommodating to our own bodies, right? That might mean you need to widen your feet out. This might be really narrow for you, right? So for various reasons, you might want to just widen your feet, right? This widens the hips and gives more room for the pelvis, right? So when we're here, you can clasp onto the back of the thighs here to really pull the chest up and forward. Yeah, so we're not here. We're doing our best to get into good posture. Doesn't have to be perfect, right? Yeah. Just start just doing our best. Yeah, it's important to make that distinction. Wonderful. Now, if you're feeling pretty good about this, then you can lift the arms up. And then if you're like, okay, this feels kind of fine for me, recline until you feel a challenge for the core, right? So wherever you might feel that, your heels are still down, flex at the ankles. Wonderful. And if you get here and you're like, ooh, yeah, this is good, that's fine. Stay right where you are. If you are interested in going a little further, we're going to do some twists. So I'm going to take my right hand, I'm going to pull it back to my hip. And as I do this, I'm going to reach across the thigh. I'm going to do the other side. I pull my left hand to my hip as I reach across. And I'm going to do this very slowly. And I'm going to keep an eye on my legs, which do not move. Right, so oftentimes in a classic Russian twist, there's a lot of movement happening through the hips and the pelvis, and the knees are going and the feet are jiggling. And we are not letting that happen. We're going really slow and we're focusing on the rotation. And I want you to really think about that, wrapping yourself around your midline. Pull with this fist, right? Pull back like you're pulling on a band. Every time, pull and reach, pull and reach. Good. Pull and reach. One more on each side, slow and steady. Pull and reach. Last one, really pull and really reach. Back in, and then lie down and hug your legs right to your chest. Oh, nice. A little side to side rocking, releasing tension in the low back. Oh, very nice. Oop, scoot down. My head's not on the mat anymore. My dog might bark because my in-laws are coming over around noon. So I'll try to keep her under control. So let's bring the feet down to the mat. Arms down by your sides. We're going to push into the feet to lift the hips high and hold. Okay. So I want you to think about drawing the rib cage down, right? So we're not just hyperextending the low back here. You're lifting the hips because you're squeezing your butt. Yeah, you've got this like intense engagement in your bum and you're pushing through your feet. Tuck your chin to lengthen the back of the neck and hold here. I want you to really think about the extension and the openness of the hips being created by the squeeze in the bum. You can push through the arms just a little bit of pressure there. Push through those feet, keep lifting, keep tucking the tail under, ribs drop, right? Again, we are keeping the low back long and not gathering tension in the low back. We are squeezing through the back of the legs. Wonderful. And slowly lower down. This time we're just going to hug the right knee in towards the chest and send the left leg long, resting it down on the mat. Give that right knee a nice squeeze, but keep the left shoulder blade down as you're here. Now you might squeeze it a little to the outside of the ribs. That's okay. And a lot of this just has to do with our anatomy. You know, how are those hip joints inserted into the joint? Good. We'll take the left hand to the outside of that right thigh and draw the leg across the body, coming into a twist. Right arm can come out by your side, reaching out, palm facing up. And doing your best to relax where you can. And returning attention to breath. Sending the breath down, expansive. 360 degrees of movement. Making sure we're completely exhaling, getting out all that CO2. Nice. Moving through center, nice and easy. We'll lengthen out the right leg and hug the left knee in. Give it a nice squeeze. And we'll draw that left knee across the body into a twist. And you might notice more range of motion from one side to the next. And that's pretty typical. But if you do notice a significant difference, you could do the twist on that more challenging side the whole time instead of even switching. Because really significant differences in strength and mobility, well, they can lead to injury, first of all, but secondly, that's why we have such a stronger paddle side, right? I know I do. And in working to even out the mobility and strength from side to side, they'll never be exactly even, and that's okay. But we can work to strengthen that weaker side of our paddling too, which is very helpful. Nice, coming back through center. Very good. And the last time we're going to hug the knees in really wide here. So way outside the rib cage. You can feel this sort of widening of the pelvis, sacrum area too. Nice, one last big hug in, and then stretching the legs out long. And we'll be in Shavasana for about 3 minutes here. Lengthen the legs out at least as wide as the mat, arms out away from the body, palms face up, or if you have the room, you might even bring the arms up over the head into like a Y, capital Y position. It's very important to be able to engage the body, to move it, right? But it's also very important to be able to let go and to relax the body as well. Shavasana can actually be a very challenging posture for people because you are totally still. And as we work to surrender the weight of the body to gravity, that can be challenging, right? You might find that there's muscles gripping and holding on. And just gently scanning the body, notice this. And if you encounter these muscle groups, maybe little, maybe big, give them permission to relax and let go. Send your breath to these spots in the body that, for whatever reason, are hesitant to release. You may start with the muscles around the face, unclenching your jaw, softening between the eyes. Are you holding your head up at all, even slightly? Is there a resistance to gravity that you can let go of? Instead, inviting the pull to the earth. Allowing the body to breathe itself. It doesn't need any help. And we slip into this conscious rest. Different from when we're sleeping because we're awake. Hopefully y'all are awake. When we slip into this consciousness around rest and relaxing and letting go. Having this awareness around what it feels like to let go and to soften. And drawing in a deeper inhalation. You may close your or open your eyes if they're closed, bringing some movement into the body, wiggling fingers and toes. You can reach your arms up over your head and big stretch from fingertips to toe tips. And then hugging the knees in, we'll rock to the right side of the body into the fetal position. Perhaps the right arm comes over the head. You can rest your ear on your bicep. As little effort as possible, pressing up into our seated posture. Might be different than the one you started with, but regardless, sitting in a way that allows you to sit tall. You can keep the eyes closed if you'd like, resting the hands down in the lap or on the knees. And shoulders are relaxed. Notice the breath in the belly, the ribs, back body. Taking a moment to scan the inner landscape for any shifts that may have happened from the beginning of class until now. Maybe your breath is flowing a little easier, or you're feeling a little softer, or maybe more energized. Just practicing becoming attuned with the body and the way our behaviors affect our body. Bringing palms together, pressing thumbs to heart. You can drop your chin down to your chest, extending gratitude to yourself for coming to your practice today. And extending that gratitude out to the people that joined us and to Dragon Heart Vermont and all of its members, making this practice possible. And even farther, we extend our gratitude to all the yogis who have walked this path before us. Open the eyes and lift the gaze. I end my classes saying Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. It means peace, 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 which is how I hope everyone will be feeling a little more peaceful throughout the rest of their day. Thank you so much for practicing. I'm just going to stop recording and then we can have a moment of reflection.